Have you ever made a mistake with your money? When it comes to making mistakes, it is human nature. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at a few common mistakes that people make that really do hurt their finances, including some of the ways that I did do some of these mistakes. And of course, one of the big ones is selling out of the market. When I was much younger, 18 years old, I joined the military and I started investing. It was actually with Invesco at the time. It was through checks, through the mail. So if you wanted a prospectus, they would actually send it to you. You would review it. If you wanted to invest in what they sent you, you sent them a check. That is right. If you don't know what a check is, go ask your bank or your credit union. They can explain it. But when you started looking at being invested in the market and long-term being invested in the market, it is something I did, kind of sold out of it, got back into it, sold out of it. When I hit about 32, 33 is the time that I really got serious about investing, which we know is about the time that baby boomers started investing, which I'm a millennial. So I was late to the game, meaning that I would have to not only contribute, but I would have to contribute much faster and at a greater magnitude to go ahead and catch up. And we have done that incredibly well. When it comes to selling out of the market, it is not about timing the market. It is about time in the market. So when you look at the major issue, it is about investors that really see a correct strategy and go through it once or twice. They hear the news, they watch social media, they see something on YouTube that they pull out of the market. When you look at the times when the market has been up, when it's been down, when it's crashed, the market has always come back, and the market has always come back very, very high. Even when you look at when the market dropped 57% between October of 2007 to March of 2009, meaning just about a 2-year period, a little less than 2 years, we've seen a 57% decline in the market. Now, of course, if you would have stayed in the market, you would have been up exponentially as of today. So it does take some time, but the market always does come back. And of course, if you had the ability to invest at that time, chances are you would make an incredible amount of money during that time, which of course is exactly what I've been doing. Even looking at when the market dip happened in 2022, right after COVID, I was buying every 2 weeks. We were dollar cost averaging. We were buying up the market as it was going down. Ended the year around 22% in the red, in the negative, which means I was buying my ETFs, which I love, the VOO, the VUG, the QQQ. I was buying all of them at a 22% or higher discount, which means I got a flash sale and I got a good sale, which of course, in return, my portfolio in the last 2 years, we're up about 75% in about the last 2.5 going on 3 years, which is kind of incredible. Now, when you start also thinking about the market, a lot of people will start seeing a little bit of a decline. They pull the money out. They see the market start shooting up. They put the money back in. It is literally mentally, mathematically, the exact opposite of what you should be doing. If the market's going down, you should be investing. If the market's going up, that's when you sell and you take profits. Again, it is something that people are doing in the exact opposite. And of course, a lot of people pulled money out of the stock market. They've been throwing it into bonds. We've been seeing it into CDs. There's been a lot of investment vehicles that are safer, but they are offering a much lower yield when it comes to the actual return than if they left the money in the market. And again, 2022, a lot of people pulled out of the market, put it into safe money. And now, of course, with inflation and the market that has been experiencing all-time highs, this entire year, they would have made exponentially a lot more money being invested in the market. Looking at number 2, spending money on things other than debt. Now, of course, when it comes to debt, when it comes to prioritizing avoiding debt, it is literally Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. It is the way to really building wealth. When you think of building wealth, when you think about preserving wealth, it is about not having debt. When you get paid, let's say you make $5,000 a month, let's say your bills are $5,000 a month, guess what? You have nothing left for debt repayment. You have nothing to invest. You have nothing that you can do because, of course, you're giving away 100% of the paycheck every single month. That is the point when you need to make a change. Fundamentally, financially, getting a second job, getting a side hustle. 54% of Americans currently have a side hustle. Doing something else and really paying down that debt is imperative. Every single dollar that you're spending in interest, every single dollar that is not going into savings, that is not going into investing, is money that you're losing for long-term and later you. Now, of course, when you start looking at this, see what you can do financially, see what is in your budget and your spending plan, where not only can you cut back, but where can you get the same things for cheaper? when you're looking at remortgaging, possibly looking at auto loans, getting a cheaper rate, when you look at insurance, when you look at cell phone, when you look at internet, even when you look at subscription services, where can you cut? And even if you're cutting $20, $30, $50, whatever it is, using the excess money that you're cutting out of that budget, throwing it onto the debt to really pay down and eliminate that debt. Because trust me, when the debt is gone and you're living your debt-free journey right back here, you'll come back to the video and you will thank me for going ahead and saying to pay off and eliminate that debt. Number 3, pausing or removing retirement contributions. This is something that a lot of times when it comes to a recession, when it comes to a down market, when it comes to cash flow issues, a lot of people will stop the retirement contributions, which of course is what conservative people do when it comes to being able to hoard cash. When you start doing this, you are not only losing your employer match if they offer one, but you're also losing the regular contributions that you get with dollar cost averaging, making regular contributions and really speeding up the momentum through time. So what we mean by that, you start your first job, you're contributing 10% into that 401k, and it's very easy. You get a raise, let's say 2, 3, 4%. You put 1% more into that 401k. Now you're at 11%. Through the next couple years, now you're up to 15%. 15% contribution is where we're going to lock it in, and we're going to lock that in for 15% for the rest of your life, guaranteeing probably $3 to $5 million by the time you hit retirement if you are an early investor and if you are an early saver, because that 15% when you're making 20 grand a year might not seem like a lot, that is going to those contributions. But then of course you fast forward 10 years, that 15% when you're making 50,000 makes a really big impact. Then of course you fast forward 10 more years, that 15% when you're making $100, $120, $150,000 again makes a big impact. You're starting to see the growth factor of compounding interest. Saving that first $100,000 in a 401k plan is the hardest thing you'll probably ever do financially, which is the reason why it is an absolute priority goal. And the final one we look at when it comes to the money mistakes is not building up the emergency fund. Now with the emergency fund, it is an emergency and earmarked for an emergency only. When you start looking at a job loss, when you start thinking of, a big home repair that you have, if it is a car breaking down that needs emergency assistance, if it is a medical bill, that is what the emergency fund is. It is for a true emergency. If you get laid out for a job, that is going to supplement your income. So what happens to a lot of people and what I see most often, something happens, an emergency happens, they're coming to borrow money, they're borrowing money on credit cards. The escalation of debt continues to happen because they're not budgeting properly. So think about this, and this is what I'm going to leave you with on this video. If you're not building an emergency fund now and something happens, you have to get access to that funds. You take out a loan, you take out a credit card, whatever you do to get those emergency fund. Since in the original scenario, you could never build, you could never save, you could never have an emergency fund, where are you going to magically get all this extra money to pay back that credit card debt? Where are you going to get it to pay back that loan you had to take? That is the reason why budgeting properly 3 to 6 months of that emergency fund is going to help you in a financial emergency. You put that into a high yield savings account that we're seeing right now about 5%. It is a game changer for the rest of your life. And if something should happen, which of course, an emergency fund, it will happen eventually. Through your entire life, there is going to be a time where you're going to have to utilize and fall back on this emergency fund, which is going to make a big difference because of course, you're not going to have to go back right to borrowing money. And again, you don't want to borrow money. You want to eliminate that debt and you want it gone. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.